I think one of the things about The Simpsons is that it really is about the anxiety and consternation of living with people who drive you out of your mind. Because it's animation and because it's a comedy, we do a lot of foreshortening, a lot of slight exaggeration. I call it rubber band reality. That is, it's real, and then we stretch it out for a moment, and then it snaps back to reality. But it is about the things that drive you crazy. I mean, how do you live with people you love and you want to kill? And in the midst of all that, it's a celebration of that idea. That is, at the end of the day, it's not a Beckett play. It's a cartoon. Jim was working with a producer named Polly Platt who liked my cartoon strip Life in Hell, which was running in the Los Angeles Reader. And they called me up and they said we're doing this new comedy variety show, and they wanted to have little animated cartoons as part of the show, and suggested that I animate my Life in Hell characters, which I thought was a great idea. I found out that I would give up ownership of whatever it is that I put up, and so I created The Simpsons in their stead, because, Life in Hell with my rabbits and Akbar and Jeff, that's a regular gig, and I was doing just fine with that, and I didn't know if this animation thing was going to pan out at all. So I made up these other characters I didn't really care about.
Relax. What is mind? No matter. What is matter? Never mind.
What happened was one of the directors, David Silverman, who's brilliant, was at a party and he had a little too much to drink, and he said to Jim Brooks, I think it should be a series. And he was so emphatic and so enthusiastic about doing another primetime series, there had never been one, like you said, for years, that Jim said, well, if somebody loves this so much, why don't we give it a shot?
When The Simpsons was starting up, I got the job there because nobody else wanted it. It's the same way I got a wife. I was not the first choice, but I was available. And I think I was like the fourth or fifth guy they had asked, and nobody wanted to work on it because it was a cartoon for adults on the Fox network, which was a brand new entity at the time. And
one of our writers is Jay Kogen, and his father was an esteemed comedy writer who had written for Carol Burnett and Johnny Carson. And his father was begging him not to take the Simpsons job. It's weird to put yourself in that mindset, but it just seemed not only like a surefire loser of a show, but actual career poison.
So I took the job, and I didn't tell anyone what I was doing, and we just thought, this is career suicide. No one's ever going to see the show. We were so confident no one was going to watch it that we said, well, okay, if no one's watching it, let's just write the kind of show we wanted to see on TV instead of the kind of show we were seeing on TV.
And almost everyone who wrote those first season episodes had never written a half-hour script before.
We literally just had fun with it. It was a really fun summer job that's now in its 600th month, I think.
Man, you go through life, you try to be nice to people, you struggle to resist the urge to punch them in the face, and for what?
But anyway, it all starts with generally a story retreat. And we call it a retreat, but it was actually just a drive a few blocks away or a couple miles away to Santa Monica, watching other people having fun, looking at the ocean, and working very hard. And everybody has a story.
Everybody bringing their stories, and it would take sometimes 10 or 15 minutes for them to say beat per beat what their whole story was.
The stories that, generally that everybody responded to, particularly like if the showrunner likes at that point, then be chosen to be the stories of that season. And then I'd say, okay, we're going to do this one now. And the writer who pitched it would come in and we'd all of us would sit around, 12 people or whatever, and pitch out that story just over a period of 3 days, maybe 4 days, depending if it was very complicated. We'd pitch out every beat as a group. I mean, every single moment, where the scene is, what happens in the scene, jokes and lines are pitched for the scene very specifically. And by the time we're finished over the 3 days, the writer goes off with about 20 pages of notes, sometimes more than that, of every scene broken down, of all these pitches of jokes and everything. And they go off for a full solid month and write that stuff.
Right. Ooh, lovely desk. It would be too bad if someone, I don't know, didn't use a coaster!
No, it was funny. I was petrified with that meeting. We met at a hotel, and there's a gong, and Jim Brooks was my first time meeting Jim Brooks, and he's there, and then it's my turn, and I pitch a story, and he liked it, and he's got that distinctive Jim Brooks laugh, and it gets a gong. And then he said, what else you got? So I pitched another story, and they liked that. And then it was like you're being in Vegas. You're like, you're hot, let's go for it. And then I said the Monorail episode, which just came from riding. I was living alone in an apartment, and I was just driving back and forth. And I remembered one day seeing a billboard that just said Monorail on it. And I think it was a national transportation, like let's raise awareness of monorails as a possible. And then the idea started to cook in my head.
Mono. Don't!
Once we got to the second year, and the second year looks exactly like the 30th year, the process has been exactly the same, which is it's a bunch of writers sitting around a table. We have a script. Some poor soul has to write the original script, and then we go, all right, line one. Anyone got anything funnier? And everyone sits and pitches jokes. If something makes 60% of us laugh, it goes in the script. And then we go line two. But that is the process. We'll just keep sitting there throwing out notions till something perks us up. And there's no cheating, you know? You can't go, it's good enough. It'll catch you sooner or later when you put in a half-baked joke. It's all democratic. I always call it like a laughocracy, where
For Schwartzwelder.
a joke goes in because somebody says it, and more than half the people in the room laugh.
People make the mistakes of thinking that new, fresh is better. It's not. It's a matter of taking what was good to begin with and keep building on that. Always go after the moments that never worked, not the moments that used to work and don't seem to be working. There's a way to get that back. Go after the moments that never worked and keep fixing them. Don't waste your energy on stuff that was already hilarious.
Right, don't tinker on the good stuff.
I can't even say the word titmouse without giggling like a schoolgirl.
We rewrite the script over a period. The quickest is about 3 days. More often it's like 7 days, 5 to 7 days. The script gets completely rewritten by this group. We then have a script that we then bring in and have the actors read.
Then you see what gets laughs and what doesn't. You see if they're on board for the story. In extreme cases, but not often, you'll go, oh, this thing doesn't work, or it's too off character, and we'll have to adjust the story too. Then we'll rewrite it for all that, record it on the following Monday.
The storyboards are done about a month later. The animatic comes, we screen it with the writers, completely rewrite that. That gets re-recorded and sent for final animation. And then when it comes back, we still do color rewrites and, change it up until, the week before air.
It's a joke. When you give me that look, it's a joke.
A joke is like a mystery story where there's a lot of weird elements. You go, what is all of this? It's just some weird world. And then the punchline comes and everything makes sense. And it may not be logical sense, but all the pieces come together. And the example I use is Duck walks into a pharmacy and says, I'd like some chapstick. And the druggist says, how will you pay for that? And he says, put it on my bill. Right? Okay, now I get it. That's why he wanted chapstick. And, there's so many unanswered questions in that joke. First of all, a duck doesn't have lips. Why does he need chapstick? And the druggist doesn't go, why is a duck talking? All he cares about is how is he going to pay for it? And then, but once you hear Bill, which again, it's not logical, it's a pun, you go, I get it. All right, the joke is finished. And a good joke, a working formula of a joke, when it's over, nobody goes, and then what happened? We want the premises to make us laugh. So very often at one of these retreats, John Schwartzwelder, one of our legendary writers, would come in and just go, my episode is entitled Bart Gets an Elephant. And we all go, okay, we get it. And then he would pitch a funny way. I mean, one thing The Simpsons does that a lot of shows that we invented, I think Sam Simon invented this, was the first act of the show, the first 10 minutes, has nothing to do with the rest of the show. There's one episode starts off, Grandpa's very sick, he's going to die, so they go shopping for a gravestone. And then they realize the money they're spending on a gravestone could be used to build a tennis court. And that becomes our tennis episode. So the first 10 minutes is sick grandpa, and suddenly it's an episode about tennis. So everyone had to come in with a funny first act that would so tangentially and surprisingly lead to the premise of the rest of the episode.
Oh, I hope you learned your lesson, Lisa. Never help anyone.
You know, every couple of years they send a camera crew to film our writer's room and they think, let's watch the fireworks. And it's just Jews thinking. It's not much different from the writing of the Talmud. It's just Jews deep in thought going, all right, what's a funny line? And then finally someone says something. It's not nonstop kibitzing and that kind of thing. You know, don't walk in and expect hell's a poppin'.
But TV, be more funny.
It just shows you it's something I've learned recently, which is it's not that hard to write TV. You know, there's courses everywhere, how to write television, blah, 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 and there's not that much to know. You know, I think if you just watched a lot of TV when you were a kid, which I did, you sort of pick it up. You pick it up, and most of writing, no matter whether it's a play or a movie or a children's book, all the different things I've done, it just means make every line good. You know, never get lazy anywhere along the way.
You don't win friends with salad.
You don't win friends with salad. You don't win friends with salad.
You don't win friends with salad. You don't win friends with salad.
It's probably the number one question I get for the show. Which character do you write for?
Well, they really do think that everyone, you know, that you write Bart and, you know, Al writes Homer and my job was the sea captain. You know, that you just were, you'd all sit around the room and that's how the show was made. And it just angers me. It angers me that people don't know more about how animated shows are made and fill their head with how to cure diseases.
When I went to The Simpsons, I remembered I prided myself on, I'm going to write edgy jokes, I'm going to be a joke machine. And when I got there, you guys explained this ethos The Simpson has, which is it's a family, they care about each other. It's something that very much came from Jim Brooks and maybe Sam Simon as well, but just this idea that this is a real family. And when I first heard that, I thought, yeah, who cares about that? I'm here to let's really bust through the fourth wall. And subsequently, I've realized that is probably the secret to the show's longevity.
The question was, could you make cartoon characters that look this weird and grotesque actually make you feel some real emotion?
The family has to really love each other. We can do as many jokes and dark humor as you want to, but if the family doesn't love each other, it's not going to resonate with people.
The first Simpsons episode I worked on was the first episode that aired, the half-hour Christmas special in 1989. When I first saw it as a final cut, it was funny, but there was a warmth to it. At the end of that episode, Homer didn't get a Christmas bonus, but he goes to the dog track and loses all his money, but then gets a dog that the owner doesn't want and brings the dog home, and the family's happy with him because he did. And there was a warmth to that was so wonderful, and that we have recaptured on the best moments in the series that I still get choked up a little thinking about it.
Story above all. There's 3 rules. Story above all. Don't be afraid of the quiet moments. Number 2. And number 3, love your characters. That's my advice for young writers.
Hello everyone, thanks for watching. On this channel, we are going to be learning how some of the best TV shows and films were created, hearing from the creators themselves. If this is something that would be interesting to you, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and join us as we take a look behind the curtain.